I'm Emma Louise Coffey and you're welcome to the Dairy Edge, the Teagasc Dairy podcast. We're bringing you the latest information, insights and opinion to improve dairy farm performance. We regularly touch base with Aidan Lawless of the Johnstown Castle herd, looking at the performance and key management decisions of the research herd. On this week's episode, we spoke to Aidan about the production, lessons learned from 2018 and the current grazing conditions. And firstly, Aidan explained the current performance of the autumn calvers.
Autumn cows at the moment, they've had a very good winter overall, I suppose, really, because we would have got the cows out there on about the 10th or 11th of January this year, and I suppose for the most part we've had grass in the diet most days since. Maybe only 4 or 5 kilos of grass at times, but we had a very exceptionally good January and February. Now the last couple of weeks have become a bit trickier weather-wise, but with the autumn calving herd, we have a huge demand when we go out. So we're really it's like sort of cycling down a hill. We have the brakes on the whole time, and just we can let them off, grazing through as much grass as we want, but we're just sort of, we probably went slightly ahead there up towards the middle of February. We would have had probably maybe 35% grazed, sort of ahead of the target really, and we sort of held them back a little bit, but we're just back. We're back around 65% grazed at the moment, so we need to be there like at this stage because we have a good bit grazed early.
And when you mention you got out, say the 10th, 11th of January, how does that compare to, say, the normal year?
Oh, well, we'd be quite happy. Our target would be our target turnout date really is the 1st of February. Every year it's just that the winter had been good. There was a good portion of grass, and we were fairly confident that we thought we were expecting we'd make hay while the sun shines, because we didn't know, but maybe like last year we could be back in February or March, and we didn't have an awful lot of winter forage there either. So we said we were ready to go when the conditions allowed, and we were fully expecting. We've no problem coming back in for 2 or 3 weeks. They're on a winter diet anyway, and the housing is there. So just they were there to utilise grass when it was there. So, and normally like at 1st of February, I'd say Emma Louise, for turnout. Yeah.
And then, looking back at the winter, you were saying that, winter fodder in 2018 wasn't in massive supply, but what sort of diet were they on when they were housed, as milking cows?
Yeah, well, we had to prioritise. We had enough silage. We made a good bit of silage towards the back end on the autumn herd. We were lucky enough there last summer that we got rain that a lot of places didn't get towards the end of July, so we made a lot of our demand coming into the back end on that 100% autumn calving herd would have been low, and we made a good bit of our silage back on towards the back end of the year. So their diet, we did have maize contract growing as well, so we got their full complement of maize, and maize would make up probably a third to 40% of their winter diet and forage anyway. So the diet was we were able to maintain the diet much the same as normal other years on the autumn calving herd. So they would be on a sort of a 2-to-1 grass silage versus maize silage, getting about during the winter period. So they would have been getting, I think, about 9-10 kilos of grass silage, and then 5 kilos of maize, and then a balancer blend, and then 6 kilos of concentrate in the parlour, so bringing it up to about 21 kilos.
Did the silage quality deteriorate last year, or was it fairly standard to what you'd normally have on the farm?
We were a little bit disappointed, to be honest, with the first cut. It tested. We came in about 73 or something. Like we'd normally be targeting sort of 75. How do we get there? Between 72 and 73 DMD. But our second cut was actually as good, or it was very similar, and the surplus bales that we made later in the year were very good quality as well, because it hadn't grown that well. But we were lucky in that we just had a window there where we got the first cut silage grey cut there early enough. That's why we were a bit surprised. Some of it because of just going back to last spring, because we were in housed and under snow for a long time. We didn't even get to graze some of the ground for first cut. Before first cut, we didn't get to graze it. So maybe that's why the quality wasn't quite as good. But we caught it there, I think, about the 18th of May or something. So we were lucky enough that we had actually grass coming back before the drought really hit us there in the middle of June. So the quality, it was a little bit back, but didn't really seem to impact on the performance there during the winter. So,
and then if we look at current performance for the autumn calvers, what sort of milk are they doing at the moment?
Yeah, they're back. Over the winter, they would have been probably sitting around 27, 28 litres and sort of doing 2.25, 2.3 kilos of solids. They're back now, dropped back a little bit. because we've dropped the concentrate a little bit, and they're just probably, they're coming into, they're probably 150, 160 days in lactation now, but they're doing about 26 litres, 2.1 kilos of solids.
And what sort of peak did they hit this year, Aidan?
About the 29, 30 litres. We try with the autumn herd generally. We try not to get a massive peak, but we try to keep the sort of a top flat line really, like so, and definitely probably helping our solids over the last month or two have been running maybe solids percentage wise. We were a bit, and even our milk solids are up a bit on normal years. I'd say getting that grass into the diet there, the good quality grass in January and February probably helped lift it a little bit. Like we're probably running 0.1, 0.2% of milk solids up on previous years.
Good stuff. And then if we look at the breeding season, Aidan, it's pretty much over at this stage, I would imagine. How has it gone for you?
Yeah, the breeding season is well over with them at this stage. Yeah, we're sort of, bulls came out there, I think about the 3rd or 4th of March or something. So we did 11 and a half, 12-week breeding season. We haven't done any scan yet. The return rate, we'd be very happy with the return rate. Hopefully, if they're in calf, we're probably looking at maybe a conception first service, maybe around 60-65%, which would be higher than what we would normally achieve. Now, hopefully there's not too many surprises in there. Activity since bulls come out, right? And we don't see too many bull in it either, so we'd be hopeful. But they went well. Like the cows were in good condition. Even I suppose a throwback from last year that they never suffered. Maybe we suffered trying to get forage and all for it, but they had a good year really and a good back end, and they were never short really of feeding, so they were in good condition, and the sort of the breeding season seemed to go well enough for us.
And you mentioned you pulled out the bulls, Aidan, so you're doing a mix of AI and bulls with the autumn calvers. What sort of a system do you use in terms of weeks AI?
We've sort of about 6 weeks AI, and then the 5-6 weeks with the just the sweeper bulls to mop up. We haven't used any sex semen or anything to date on that herd, because I suppose up until now our conception rates was probably, we were maybe a little bit worried that our conception rates weren't hectic anyway in the first place. But this last couple of years they seem to have improved a bit. But we're generating plenty of replacements, and the herd is fairly, any of the herd are fairly consistent that we can breed for replacements. Most of the cows are fairly of similar ability, most of them. So we're happy enough like that. We're breeding and we're generating more than enough. Like we have, I think we've about 35, 40 replacements there again. We were only running a herd of sort of 90 autumn calvers at the moment. So we have surplus probably replacements coming down the line for next year there again. So. Yeah.
And then I suppose my final question in relation to the autumn calvers would be, say, you're using AI and you said that, you're generating good replacements, and I suppose the cow, I'd say, in terms of the dam and also the bull selection would contribute to that. And what sort of I suppose traits are you looking for when you're selecting AI bulls for the autumn calvers? And then I guess a follow-on question, are they different to what you'd use for the spring calvers?
Yeah, well, I suppose the traits are like sort of high production and high fertility. I suppose is really what we're looking for. We're maybe to answer your second question first, we're not really looking for anything different than what we would look for a good production spring herd. I suppose maybe the only slight thing we'd be looking for maybe 100 plus kilos. On the bulls we're using sort of between 100 and 200 kilos of milk production. We do want to keep the volume up, like we'd be targeting sort of a yield, our cows sort of 7,500 litres. So we just want to be conscious of that a little bit, but we're very focused on, like our big part of our check is still coming from our milk solids. So we're targeting, like I think the weighted average of the bulls that we use there on the autumn herd this year were about 32 kilos of milk solids, and somewhere overall EBI was about 290, so it balanced a bit, sort of 100 for milk and then about 120 for fertility. Our maintenance figure, the cow that we have, is probably that bit bigger, maybe even our spring herd, maybe than maybe a lot of spring herds, our autumn herds at the moment. Like we're probably around a maintenance figure around 0 or something, which is coming in at mature herd average of maybe around 600 kilos or something. So they're not a massive cow, but they're good sized cow enough.
And on the maintenance figure, are you looking to reduce that in the future, or are you happy with the 0 for maintenance?
Well, to be honest, the selection that I've been doing for the last couple of years, that's what the figure we end up with when we my key criteria is sort of fertility, like sort of over 100 for fertility, sort of and as much as high as possible milk solids in both in percentage and volume terms, and sort of after that, then that's the maintenance figure I've ended up with. We haven't looked at a bull from a maintenance point of view. That's just sort of the bull we end up with when we put in the rest of the criteria, really. So.
And I suppose then if we move on then to look at the spring calvers, Aidan, how has the calving gone so far this year?
The calving's gone well. We started off, we had a couple of stillbirths very early on, and now our spring herd is small in terms of in numbers wise. Like, we only have about 67, 68 cows in total calve, because of the autumn herd. The autumn herd is the primary focus here, so we just have a smaller spring herd, but it's gone very well. After that, with no issues, just gone very smoothly, really. We've the cows have been calving down, going to grass when they can, and just sort of, we have at this stage, I think we've about 90% calved. Like, we've 7 cows left calved there of them, so there's 4 or 5 of them close enough, and then there's 1 or 2 stragglers on it, so we'd be happy enough. In terms of the calves, we've probably less heifers than we wanted in that herd, but that could balance out over time, I suppose, anyway. So we're finished now with the Frisian replacements anyway. Like, it's just going back again, similar to the autumn. We have the sweeper bulls coming on stream now. Any of the calves are calving from here on in, like, so. Yeah.
Is there any reason, Aidan, that you can relate the stillbirths to?
No, but then, like, there was only 2 out of, like, so it's just that we got 2 of them together, I think. So it was just a bad start early on. Not that we, not that anything that they were fully determined on. Now, maybe one of them was just maybe calving too long or something. We're not sure. It's nothing, like, it was just, we were a little bit maybe worried starting off, and we had to do them, but we hadn't had lost anything since. So it was just one of those things, maybe. So.
And you mentioned that, say, the cows, that February was a great grazing month, and things are a little bit more difficult now. I suppose right now, what sort of diet are the cows on?
Right now, that could change daily at the moment. The one thing at the moment, I think, similar with a lot of farmers, is that we have to be flexible, really. Like, my one criteria, we do have enough housing space, and we do have enough feed at the moment. We fed a good lot of straw for the spring herd. We were more tight and forage for the spring herd, so for the dry period we fed a lot of straw, and also we do still have silage. So our number one priority at the moment is not to do damage to any of the swards, any of the paddocks. So we're doing a good bit of on-off grazing. If it's very wet during the day and it's raining a lot, they might not go out at all during the day, and maybe get a graze bout in the evening, or the boss days 2 grazing bouts. We haven't really, only for a week earlier in February, we haven't gone out day and night full time, so they're still getting probably 90% of their daily grass sort of on most good days, but it can change. So typically, say, we're probably 10, 11 kilos of grass, there's 2 or 3 kilos of silage going in, because even with the grazing bout, we're finishing milking here around before 5 o'clock, so we're bringing in the cows 8, 9 o'clock in the night, and it's just, I think it's a bit too long maybe to leave them without any silage there until the morning, so they will be getting a couple of kilos of silage, but it'll be well gone there probably early morning time, so they'll be going out with a bite and an appetite. And then if it's dodgy conditions, we might hold them in the yard till 10 o'clock and leave them out then until milking time at 3 again, or we're a bit of flexibility that way. But for the most part, we're still able to. It's just a little bit trickier. We're watching paddocks and stuff, but we're able to get grass into the diet on most days anyway with them. Similar to the autumn ones, I suppose, really.
And I guess milk production from the spring calvers, Aidan, what are you achieving at the moment?
Yeah, they're only really settling down now at the moment. So I suppose I think they're about 27 litres. They're about 2.1 kilos of solids. They're, like I said, they're up and down and settling down a bit at the moment. So hopefully maybe the solids percentage will lift a bit in the milk yield. They should. We didn't start calving there until the first week of February, so like there should be sort of, we'd had a good portion calved there by the 20th of February, so within the next week or two there should be really a lot of them hitting sort of peak production, and hopefully if we can get weather, I think, to settle down a bit next week again, that we get out and we have a good grass on the spring herd there as well, that we could go out full time when the weather does settle down a bit anyway. Yeah.
And I suppose if we cast our mind back then, Aidan, to 2018, and if we look at the overall performance of that spring calving herd, like I know that a lot of farmers would say, due to feeding a higher level of concentrate, milk solids was up. Would you have seen that with your spring calvers?
Possibly, but we would have been we're probably a bit disappointed like that. I think we came in around 520 kilos of milk solids on the spring herd, which given the level meal feeding, I think we fed about 1.3 tons a meal, which maybe wasn't excessive given the year we had, but it's a lot more than what we would have budgeted for, all right. But we had a bad start with the probably more so than even a lot of areas like that. We were tight enough on silage. We had to feed in some second cut silage to spring milking cows last year. We had I can remember back to say May, 10th of May last year, we had to house cows because of the weather and everything. And within about 3 weeks, then we were nearly running into a drought situation. So we had a very bad spring last year, and I think it hit our milk solids percentages early in the year. And I don't know whether we really got back up to where we'd like to be. So we'd be hopeful maybe this year that we go a little bit better. We would have been a bit disappointed with the solids percentages really. Off the top of my head now, we were probably around 445 and 359, 360 or something. And then, like I said, overall production, the 520 kilos of milk solids at about 6,500 litres, somewhere around there. So yeah.
And I suppose finally, Aidan, in light of the difficult year in 2018, and you've alluded to some of the effects it's had on, I suppose, the autumn and spring that you've had. Is there anything that you've changed in Johnstown Castle in terms of management practices going forward for 2019?
Well, not a lot. That we would have been. Well, we are actually changing around our spring calving trials, but we haven't. That's only really in the process sort of at the moment. So I won't go into detail maybe this time about that. But I suppose the only thing, like we were always conscious that we would have been, because of different groups and all, we would have been trying to carry a surplus of silage through anyway, just that we would have the flexibility. Now, with the way sort of the long winter and the drought that was tested this year, but we didn't ever run out of silage. We were tight, but we weren't caught that way. So that was a big help to us last year, and we'd be conscious of that again. But like we have a fair handle on measuring grass over the last few years and what the capacity of the farm to grow the grass is. So like our stocking rate, would be happy sort of overall stocking rate sort of on the grazing platform around 2.7 or something. And of a normal year we can comfortably grow the grass and that, but like just to make sure we have a buffer. And one thing that we have to do this year is to try rebuild that buffer a little bit. So just maybe be conscious, maybe moving off some of the, say, any of the cull cows maybe a little bit earlier, just trying to make back the surplus. We'll see what way the year goes. Just maybe any sort of surplus replacements and stuff like that, that if we don't need them, we mightn't hang on to them quite as long as we normally would, just to try build that bank of silage back a little bit. So at the moment, that's the plan, I think. So
I think that's a great note to finish on, Aidan, and a good bit of good advice for a lot of farmers, who are also building their buffer in 2019. I think we've got a great insight into what's happening in Johnstown Castle at the moment, and we'll catch up with you again during the summer, Aidan. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, thanks very much, Emily. Thank you.
That's it for this week's episode of the Dairy Edge podcast, and my thanks to Aidan Lawless for joining me on this week's show. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple and Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify. And for more information, go to the Teagasc website at teagasc.ie. I'm Emma Louise Coffey, and join me next time for your Dairy Edge.